Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I watched the classic film Twister. With the remake coming out soon, I figured I'd give the original a rewatch and review it for you. Michael Crichton and Anne Marie Martin wrote this dramatic thriller. Jan de Bont directed the film, which stars Bill Paxton as Bill Harding, Helen Hunt as his ex-wife Dr. Jo Harding, and Carrie Elway as Dr. Jonas Miller. The story is a single-perspective adventure that follows Bill Harding. He is a former storm chaser who is trying to settle down with a new fiancée when he finds himself getting dragged back into his old life. It starts with a tornado tearing apart a family's home in 1969. It focuses on the terrifying nature of the storm and the destruction it causes. The sound and fury of the tornado tear across the screen and create a gigantic entrance for the film's antagonist, nature itself. It then fast forwards to 1996, where Bill and Jo end up competing with Jonas Miller to be the first scientists to measure a tornado from the eye of the storm. Bill and Jo created a new piece of technology to get more accurate readings, and the only way to test it is to drive into the path of a storm. The cast is quite large, with all kinds of side characters, background characters, and even a secondary antagonist. There's Bill and his fiancée, Dr. Melissa Reeves. Then there is his ex-wife, Dr. Jo Harding, and her band of misfits, some of whom are named and some who aren't. Opposite them is Dr. Jonas Miller and his team of corporate scientists. He has one named henchman and an army of extras behind him. Last but not least is Aunt Meg, Jo's aunt, who takes the team in when they need a break. The visual journey starts with a terrifying, almost supernatural disaster, and then quickly turns into a hero's journey with Bill, Jo, and their crew chasing after 3 different tornadoes. There are lots of scenes of destruction, of the storm raging, and of them bantering as they attempt to pull off their science experiment. There is a little bit of CGI when it comes to the storm and the objects being thrown around, but most of the film uses practical effects. There are all kinds of scenes of large objects being picked up and thrown around, buildings being torn apart, and people being sucked up into the air. Sound-wise, the film uses both original songs and orchestral instrumentals in abundance. They attempt to create character, build different atmospheres, give the storm a supernatural vibe, and support the emotional journey. Bill and Jo's storm chasers roll out to rock and roll and heavy metal, while the storm comes with more fantastical sounding orchestral tracks. The film as a whole has a somewhat magical quality to it thanks to the music and the complexity of the sound. Okay, so how does it hold up? The story is a bit fantastical but also highly entertaining. It has a ragtag team of heroes who you want to root for, fighting against one of nature's scariest and most destructive forces. There's lots of suspense and thrills in watching them chase down tornadoes to rock and roll while cows are literally flying through the air around them. The B-plot romance storyline also works okay, and the secondary antagonist has a wildly hilarious ending. The plot has a few minor holes in it when it comes to the heroes and how close they get to the storm without injury, but for the most part, makes sense, and tells a heartfelt tale of scientists trying to make the world a better place. Most of the cast does a good job, but there are a few stiff line deliveries here and there aren't any standout performances. Most of the storm chasers are playing rowdy boy scientists, while Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt are both playing the same character. They are the heroic, intelligent leads who face danger time and again. They fight a little bit, but they seem very similar even when they're fighting. They both get some decent emotions to portray, and they do a good job of them, but you won't remember these characters after the movie ends. No one else receives enough screen time to stand out. Visually, the film is a little bit shaky, and they're always on the move, in a car or running from a tornado. It does get a bit much at times, but outside of that, the journey is easy to understand and comes with a lot of great moments. They did a fantastic job creating the tornadoes. They are terrifying. They do all kinds of damage to the environment, and we get a few different weather effects alongside them. The CGI looks a little out of date and poorly textured, but only appears for milliseconds at a time. The practical effects are top-notch and highly exciting to watch. The soundtrack does a boatload of work in supporting the film. It's present throughout most of the movie, adds most of the emotion into the story, and turns the tornadoes into supernatural events. The original tracks they used are well timed and give a metric ton of flavor to the storm chasers. The orchestral pieces support the emotional journey well by creating a plethora of emotions and dousing the scenery with them. They made a lot of dramatic cinematic moments. Overall, Twister is a well-made film that aims to entertain without being too heavy. Its visual journey is fantastic and recreates the terror of the tornado well. Its soundtrack is a Hall of Fame-worthy heavy hitter, and the cast does a decent job with the material. If you like man versus nature stories, this one is well written for the most part and quite entertaining. As for a rating, I'd give this film a 7 out of 10. Remember, these are just my thoughts on the film. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Bye-bye!